Welcome to the Liberating River, where spiritual freedom meets soul aligned wealth. I'm Wanda.
There is a difference between losing yourself and losing your conditioning. There is a difference between betraying yourself and disappointing expectations of others, between being lost and being in transition. There is a difference between rebellion and revelation. The old identity begins to break down because your life has outgrown it. That's what happened to me. But because we were never taught to recognize expansion, you interpret it as danger. I know I sure did. So you say, why do I feel so unsettled? Have you said that? Why am I questioning everything? That's bad. I can't do that. Why does the life I built no longer feels like it fits? What is going on? Why am I no longer satisfied with what I used to settle for? Why do I feel called to more even though I should be grateful, right? Aren't we taught that? That word should. Woo! That word should is a detrimental word to your life and to your purpose. Why? Because that is the first sign of being in a box. Think about it. You're like, how? Okay, listen. I should be happy. I should be satisfied. I should be grateful. I should stay. I should be quiet. I should not want more. I should not change now. I should not start over. I should not disappoint them. I should not make people uncomfortable. I should not desire a life beyond what I was handed. But let me offer this gently. Gratitude and expansion are not enemies. You can be grateful for what carried you and still know it is no longer where you are meant to live. You can honor the roof that sheltered you and still leave the house when the flood rises. Are you hearing me? You can appreciate the people who gave you language, structure, and guidance, and still recognize that some of what they gave you was too small for who you were becoming. That is not dishonor. That is discernment. And discernment is one of the first tools of liberation. So we are talking about boxes. So let's talk about this identity box. An identity box is a definition of self that becomes so fixed, so reinforced, and so protected that you stop allowing yourself to grow beyond it. And you know what? It sounds like this. I'm just not that kind of person. I've always been this way. That's not for people like me. I'm the responsible one. I'm the strong one. I'm the helper. I'm the quiet one. I'm the practical one. I'm the spiritual one. I'm the one who keeps the peace. I'm the one who doesn't need much. I'm the one everybody depends on. Now, none of those things are automatically bad, right? Nothing alarming. Being responsible is not bad. Being strong is not bad. Being helpful is not bad. Definitely not being peaceful. That's not bad. Being practical, that's not bad. The issue is not the trait. The issue is the prison. The question is not, is this quality good or bad? The question is, do I have permission to be more than this? Sit with that. Sit with that right there. Do I have permission to be more than this? Can the responsible one also rest? Can the strong one also receive? Can the helper also need help? Can the peacemaker also tell the truth? Can the practical one also dream? What about the spiritual one? Can they also build wealth? Can the quiet one be visible? Can the dependable one also choose themselves? What about the one who holds everyone together? Can they finally admit they are tired? That is the real question. Because a box does not always look like weakness. Sometimes the box is built out of your strengths. Sometimes it's the praises you receive. Hear me. Sometimes the thing people praise you for is the thing that keeps you trapped. People will praise your overfunctioning if it benefits them. Hmm. They will call you strong when you are actually unsupported. They will call you loyal when you are afraid to lead. Has that happened to you? I know it happened to me. They will call you humble when you are afraid to be seen. They will call you wise when you are actually playing small. Mm. They will call you selfless when you have abandoned yourself. And if you are not careful, you will build your identity around the applause of people who only know how to celebrate the version of you that serves their comfort. That is why identity work is not just about knowing who you are. It is also about knowing who benefits from you staying the same. Because every box has a reward system. That's just how God is. That's just how we are. Every box has a punishment system. When you stay inside the box, you receive approval. When you step outside the box, you may experience resistance. People may ask, who do you think you are? They may say, you're changing. They may say, you're acting real different now. Or what about, you think you're better than us now? Or that's not realistic. That's not how we do things. You're doing too much. You're doing the most. But sometimes you are doing too much really means you are no longer staying within the confines of the version I can control, predict, or understand. Listen, hear me, okay? Hear me. That does not mean people are evil. You know what it means? It means the system protects itself. That's what that means. So families protect patterns, communities protect norms, religious environments protect doctrine, workplaces protect hierarchy, cultures protect expectations. You know, it's that yin and yang. And your expansion may feel like disruption to people who are comfortable with your containment. That is why stepping out of the box requires more than motivation. It requires spiritual maturity. It requires emotional regulation. It requires self trust. It requires the ability to be misunderstood without running back into the old identity for comfort. Because the box, honestly, may have been too small, but we run back to it because it's familiar. We run back to it because you learned how to survive it. And sometimes familiar pain mm, feels safer than unfamiliar freedom. Let that sit for a minute. For real. Seriously. Think about that. Sometimes familiar pain feels safer than unfamiliar freedom. That is why people stay in identities that hurt them. Not because they are weak, not because they do not want better, but because the nervous system often equates familiarity with safety. Think about that. Sit back and think about it. Even pause this, but think about it. And if your whole life has been trained to be one version of you, then becoming more may feel threatening at first. So even when it is good and it's a good thing you're doing, even when it feels aligned, even when it answers your prayers, even when it answers your prayers, you know, like the boats, like the helicopter, like that opportunity, like that open door that you wanted to go in, but you was afraid to go in, like that new calling that you feel on the inside that wants to be birthed, that new business that new business or that new venture you wanted to jump into. What about that new relationship? What about that relationship you have with money? What about the new way of seeing yourself? Guess what? The the rescue, the rescue may not feel like a rescue if it requires you to release the identity that taught you how to survive. And that's what you have to work over and through. And I'll be honest, how does all this work get into play? Well, it starts with family expectations. And you want to know why? It starts with that because that is your foundation. Many of us, that first box was built at home, not always intentionally and not always maliciously, but the structure and the foundation of the box was built at home. Sometimes the box was built with love, other times it was built out of fear. Sometimes it was built out of protection, and sometimes it was built out of survival. Sometimes it was built because our parents, grandparents, our caregivers, the elders were doing the best that they could with what they knew. But the best they could does not mean everything they handed us should be kept. Some of us inherited family roles before we had the language to question them. One child becomes the responsible one. One child becomes the peacemaker. One child becomes the successful one. One child becomes the problem child. One child becomes the caretaker. One child becomes the emotional support system to the parent. One child becomes the one who is not allowed to have needs. One child becomes the one everybody worries about. One child becomes the one everybody leans on. And here is the thing about family roles. They often begin as survival strategies. Think about it. You became the responsible one. Why? Because you had to step up and help around the house. You had to tend to the siblings, the nieces, the nephews, the cousins. You became the quiet one. Why? Because honesty was punished. You became the funny one. Why? Because laughter lowered the tension. You became the high achiever because success brought approval. You became the caretaker because someone had to be emotionally mature and the adults were not available. You became independent because depending on people did not feel safe. Or maybe you became agreeable because conflict felt dangerous. Having opinion felt dangerous. At the time, the role may have protected you. But what protected you in one season of your life can and tends to imprison you in another. And some point, the question becomes, am I still this person because is it truly who I am? Or, or am I still performing this role because my family does not know how to relate to the new me? I think that's even a hard, I think that's even a harder question because family identity can be sticky. It follows you. It is your foundation. You can be 40, 50, 60 years old, and somebody in your family will still talk to you like you are the version of yourself they remember 25 years ago. It is like you froze in time. Stay tuned. To be continued. Coming next week.